We have a extensive adoption of this technology. That number is actually small. It's over 3,000 customers, over 10,000 concurrent uses of this kind of technology out there, being used at any one time by a considerably larger number of people. And the reason we feel like it's such a popular reporting and analysis and data management tool is because being an Excel and Excel centric, it's easy to set up, learn, use. It's an environment that offers you a great deal more latitude on certain things you're trying to do, but also a great deal more options when it comes to interaction with information and what have you. And it's all about saving you time, something that you would do manually to get a certain result because you just want it, so you go through whatever steps. You'll be able to accomplish that in far less time by applying this tool. We want everyone to be able to be self-sufficient. Different people get to that level at different speeds and in different ways. So we have a great track record helping you. We have training classes, and we'll touch upon those as well, and one-on-one consulting. And your business partners out there have consultants. This is a Sage technology. A lot of consultants know it and are expert on it in addition to the financials. So it just depends. But you have options available to you. As we normally talk about in Office Connector, there's the query capability where I'm in Excel and I'm connected to Sage data. So what it's not is pushing something into Excel. So if your goal and objective is to bring up a financial in the legacy financials and more efficiently push it in there, that can be done, but that would be consulting in that product. It's not going to be anything like what you could do with this. You can do a lot more with this. So that's not what this presentation is about. It's people who are doing their financial reporting in Excel. They don't have to push anything. It's in Excel. They're connected to it. And so query is a technology that can connect us to Excel. There is the write and import. The writing and import both come into play even in financial reporting. You may not think about it, but you should, because there is a time period where you're going through budgeting, or you should be. What am I likely to expend next year? Put money aside, have an idea. That process might be cooking for a while, and a lot of people do that in Excel. When you're ready to put that information into Sage, if you look at an Excel workbook and you type it in, and then you have to confirm that you didn't make a mistake, my question would be, that's fine, but people were doing that 25 years ago. So why are you doing it when you could click a button and bam, it's in Excel or in Sage? Write and import can both put that in there, budgets at least. But in other things, write can update certain information and import can get detail in. And if you want to know more about those two applications, we do presentations on that, and we have recorded ones. So if you're interested and that just triggered something in your mind, then go ahead and communicate there via the questions or chat or what have you to Marshall, and we can follow up with that later. But when we talk about query, we can get a hold of all the data in Sage, right? Financial information and subledgers. We can even look at the accumulation table that has more than just 2 years of detail in it accumulated. We can see that all with query. But a financial is more than that. Financial reporting is often derived values, because you're comparing one period or another, or here's the different months and now I'm adding them to a quarter, or however I want to add it, and compare one quarter to another quarter 3 years ago and 5 years ago. To accomplish that, the amounts have to be derived. They're not stored in Sage. You have to derive them. And if you push the data into Excel, then that's what you'd have to do, or you'd have to run the legacy financial for one thing or another and then try to put those two things in Excel. Who would do all that when you could just hit a button? Seriously. So that's what we're talking about, is financials is going to allow you to do that sort of a thing. So we really consider it's a no-brainer, because the financials is just an extension to query. It's just one-time fee. You pay it, and you have your Sage Care, but you don't pay it per license. Your query licenses will have the financial functioning capability, but you can also rest assured that for your financial information is safe. It's secured by your Sage security. So what do I mean by that? Now, if you look at a bunch of financial information and you write it down and leave it in the conference room, or you print out a financial and leave it there, well, that's not very secure. And the same thing's true if you leave a refreshed Excel workbook with a bunch of data in it laying around. People could look at it. But not just anyone can refresh a report that's financial. They have to have access to it. So inside of Sage, we lock that down with the Sage menu security and these sorts of things. Outside of Sage, with things like Crystal or Access or Microsoft Query or Office Connector, those are locked down with the ODBC security. So it's part of Sage's security. You just set it up, and by role or whatever, you can restrict access. So rest assured, you can lock it down, but you need to lock it down. So make sure you've locked it down. And if you're wondering about that, that's an area of Sage support, or your consultant can help you with that. So these are the products in the Office Connector product family: Query, Write, and Import. And our focus today is on financials. So you see you have to have a standard or designer license, and then financials will extend either of them. Now, if you had a standard license, could you run the financials that are on the Launchpad? Yes, you could, absolutely. Could you modify them with the financial functionality that I'm going to demonstrate? No, you could not. You need a designer to add more Sage content to some kind of a report. So if you want to do your own thing, then you would want to get a designer, at least someone. And they're concurrent uses, so these things could be shared. So it's just a decision. And there's another way of sharing information. Okay, so let's say I push data into Excel and I manipulate it, like maybe you're doing that right now, or I use Microsoft Query somehow and I go through this big, elaborate, long process and come up with what I want. I could take that and just share it to someone like an executive or a CPA because it's just an Excel document. Could you do something similar with this? And the answer is yes. You could have a financial that's connected to your data, but you could then, after saving that, save it as what's called save as values. Office Connector has that capability. And now you have another copy of it, and it's just the data is just in there. Your Excel formulas are all there, the graphs, the charts, whatever you put in there, that's still there. But it's not connected to Sage via, say, Office Connector, so you could share it with whomever it is that you like. Don't leave one of those things laying around in a public folder, though, because there you go, it's not secure. But that, of course, wouldn't be Sage or specifically Sage Office Connector Financials being responsible for that kind of a mistake. So why was it created? So the Financial Statement Designer that is part of Office Connector, part of Sage. I mean, I was a programmer. I've been affiliated with all this technology for over 35 years. I was a programmer and in support and all that back when that was being designed, and when it was released. Very, very powerful. Excel didn't even exist when this was created. Okay, so it's a very powerful and useful technology, but it wasn't made to do everything. And I know that through the years I've been a consultant, people tend to just put stuff in Excel, and I'd ask them why. And so I just want to work in Excel, and they'd show me things they're doing, and I would get paralyzed because there'd be so many columns and the font would be so small. I'd be going, ugh. And so it's ironically, now we're experts at this, but so that is out there, and you get that with your software. Okay, so Sage Office Connector Financial is designed as the next level, something more. And when I say next level, it's next level. Sage's competitors may imply that they have something remotely similar to this. They don't. We know. We're Excel-based reporting experts comprehensively, and this technology is really just the most advanced for any comparable type of technology out there. So, and even if people are familiar with SAP and like Hyperion and all that, this is great. Now, is it a separate financial technology like FRX? No. If you want to know more about what that did and how this is different, FRX basically would take data and put it in its own database, separate from your ERP database, and then reports would run off of that. This technology does not do it. It's connected to your Sage. But in many cases, especially even publicly held entities, they want that. It's like, I want the data. I want to know that the data here in this report is the data it's connected to. And it didn't come anywhere but via connected to the data if you use this technology. So it solves that problem for you. Being Excel allows a lot more freedom of ranging and formatting financial data. So you have advantages with an Excel-based type of technology. So what all does it have? It's primarily its financial functions. So in addition to query, don't forget you have query. And especially the designer, you can, like, meaning I could have a financial, and I've had people, and I've gone through all this, and they go, can I, from this financial, get back to the sub ledger that originated these GL entries? And I'm like, I talked about that like the whole during the presentation, just probably not that effectively. So I'm making that point right now. Office Connector Query can get to the data in all your different tables. So long as the ODBC driver can read it, we can get to it. So you can go further than any financial reporting, because you can get the data that's in job cost or property management or AP or wherever else. So you don't have to stop just with the accumulated financial information. You can go beyond and build really whatever it is that you can think. And you're able to grab financial though data via these powerful functions, and we'll talk about those and show you some of them. They're really, in fact, Marshall had done several financial presentations, and then I showed him 2 other functions he hadn't been using that someone could just use a date, like put in the 131, 20, whatever, 231, whatever, and just put them across, and then the financials would just get those dates or maybe date ranges, and it would just know, like basically the financial function, you're just telling a really smart Excel formula how to go out and get anything you want out of Sage's general ledger or the accumulated tables. That's what this is. So when I demonstrated being a programmer, and I know what people go through to try to do this in Excel otherwise, and people aren't just jaw dropped, then I don't think that they really understand what it is that they're seeing, because it's awe-inspiring what this thing does when you really think about it. Anyway, so you acquire an Office Connector Financial site license, extends the query, and now you're ready to go. So this is a quick comparison of the legacy financials that you have, and then what this was designed to add. So you've got rich text formatting. You can put in comments, interact with the financial and put in comments, and people can collaborate and share. And even if you refresh data and there's new accounts, the comments will stay on the correct row, right? I mean, just Office Connector has that capability anyway, but this is an Office Connector product, so you can roll forward 6 months. You can't do that with financials, and you can go back more than 25 periods. I don't normally do this. I just decided today I'm just going to do this. So I just want to make sure everybody understands. I mean, I've been a consultant for a long time. I know this thing, and sometimes I assume that people know more than maybe I should assume. So this is the financial statement designer. It's the legacy one. It just comes with it. I've implemented it lots and lots of times, and it can do a lot. I've made it do a lot over the years. And if I open up a statement, like there's a balance sheet, and I could do this one, and then I could put them in a group, right? You should know all of that. That's not the purpose of this presentation, but this is it. This is what you can design, and it's nice. I mean, I thought it was pretty well thought out for a lot of years. It looks like Excel because it looks like there's rows and columns and stuff like that, but it's not. And so what I'm going to be showing is Excel, but this is it. And if I wanted to print it, I could go File, and I can print, and I can print the statement. And when I print the statement, I can do an individual one or the group, and whatever I do, I can say consolidate entities or do it for an individual one. But that's what I'm limited to. Consolidate the entities or print an individual one. What I'm going to be showing you can do much more than that. Much more. Okay, so but here it is. It's on paper. See, there's numbers. What makes up that number right there? That doesn't look right. How would you know? How would you know? Like, you should be able to answer that question right now. If you ran this report and that didn't look right, what would you do? You go run another report. You're not going to have to do that. We're going to put everything together so that you can build things. And look, it's nice, but could it look more visually appealing? Yeah. And could you do that with Sage? Yes, you can. With Office Connector Financials, you could do more. So we've had people say, I just want to push this to Excel, and then I'll do this, and this, and they can do that. There's tricks and all that. I've taught people years. That's not what this presentation is about. This presentation is about building something so that you don't have to do that. Now, it's still leveraging what's in Sage. So I've already, launched General Ledger here. I just want to touch upon this because it is kind of, financial related. When I printed that statement, if it will do rollback, and it will go back all those periods. It will not roll forward. It just doesn't do it, and it won't go more than those periods back. So if I go to set up an account, for me, here are my accounts. This is where financials, Legacy Financials gets its data, and so does Office Connector. Gets a lot of its data. The type of account, so you can put an account in one section or another, the balance of the account, the future balance, these historical year ends are very important for calculating. To derive the current balance of 5 or 7 years ago, we need these fields right here to do it. Now, the Legacy Financials does use this, but it only uses like one of them. It doesn't go back as far as it can, and it will read all of this. So here's my current period. The actual name of that field is not 5/31/2015. That is not the name of that field. The actual name is current activity, or period activity, current period activity. That's the concept. That's 1 month ago. That's 2 months ago. That's future 1, future 2, all the way there. That's the names of those fields. So this sometimes confuses people when I talk about financial reporting. It doesn't confuse me because I've just been doing it forever and I know all of this. But I'm going to try to demystify something here because I think that it would make the whole purpose of these presentations is to create a better experience for you using Sage, not to sell you the next thing. I mean, that's not we think that it's a great investment and we hope you will too, but we want you to better understand your technology. So when you build an account, when you're implemented, you might not have prefixes. You may just have base accounts that are your accounts. But oftentimes a consultant you'll have a prefix. And the prefix, you might just have one company. So it's, company 10, and it's got your balance sheet and profit and loss account. Now, would I implement someone like that? No, I wouldn't. I would say, well, you're going to have 10, and then I'm going to have like 00. That's going to be your balance sheet, and then 10, 01, 02, 03. It could be profit and loss groupings for you, right? And so you could, you consolidated. It's still what you historically have seen, just one financial. But now you could dial into the profitability of different things, A long time ago, when I first started, the people would try to have the jobs as being one of those prefix levels. But then a product was created called job cost. No one really had that out there, and the history was made. So anyway, these numbers are part of this. So if I go into this company and I hit next, right, the fiscal controls, at least the way this is implemented, if I go in here, there's my current period. Now that current period is advanced by me going over here and closing my period, and it will go to June, July, August. And by doing that date next to the current one, it'll increment. So the 6/30 will now become the current period, and then later 7/31, and it snakes around kind of like that. And that's my year ending, right? And then this calendar right there is what is used by the programmer to overlay that screen. It's coming from right there. Okay. So that either made sense or it didn't, and you can play this back later or ask questions later. But anyway, that's the source. So can I see that information? I can. I'm going to go into an Excel document, a brand new one, right? And I'm just going to use query because I also want to show you why query is not enough. So I'm going to come here, and I'm assuming people know what Office Connector is all about, or we have another presentation for that sort of thing. So I'm just going to come here and do a query. I'm going to pick my folder, and I'm going to log in, or I've already generated a report, so it's already logged me in. So I have access to the financial information, and I'm going to look at the account table. And I just want to show you that I can see it with the query. So if I go to the General Ledger account table, see, there it is. That table is the same one that I'm in GL on that screen. And here are these fields, right? So I can grab this field and this and the things that are financial-ish, These things all might be things I'd want to consider. Not that the legacy financials can use it all. It can't. It can't use these future periods. They're there, but it can't use them. It wasn't designed to use them. They didn't even exist when it was created. So here you go. All these periods are out there. That's what's on the account table. So if I hit finish, you may or may not do that. It depends on how many accounts you have. I've implemented people who, there was someone who had, many hundreds of entities. So who knows, a lot of accounts. But anyway, so here's this list of accounts, and I've got my current balance, and over here I've got my that's my current balance, and over here I have my current activity. So that current activity, if I come down here in GL, see, it's right there. That value there is that current activity. And when I close my period, it will be whatever's here. So the name of this field is current activity, and the name of that is something else. So all the data is there. And that's part of knowing how to do something with a reporting tool, is understanding the data and how it changes and how you would therefore build a report. Now with financials, it's going to be quite easy because look, my current period is 5/31, 20, whatever, 18 or 15 or whatever. If I wanted to do a financial for period 4, how would I get my current balance? I would take my current balance right now and I'd subtract my current activity, and then I would have the current balance from the prior month. And if I wanted to go 5 periods ago, I would keep subtracting, and 2 years ago, And now I can't go further than that because, with a legacy financials, because it only reads some of the fields. So is there another table that has all my accumulated detail? Yeah, in version 9 point something or other. I'm sorry, I can't remember everything. I remember a lot, but we've got 35 years of a lot of stuff running around. It's hard to remember everything. But if you do a query here, if I come down here, see here, there's an account activity history table. See that? If I hit next, I'm just using OffCenter, and I'm not going to grab all this stuff. You may not even have values in some of these fields. Sometimes some of these fields get populated because of settings you have in your general ledger. So I don't know if they would have values or not, but I just want to show you what's in there. So if I do that, it obviously, I have sample data. What's in sample data? Who knows? Okay, but you would have something in here, okay? I've done this lots of times with people. If you did a query like that, you're going to have a list of your accounts, and you're going to have years ago. Probably going to start with like 2 years ago, and 3 years ago, and 4 years ago, and so on and so forth. And then you're going to have the activity for all the different periods based on that. So these values are hanging out there, but what do you do with them in order to get what you want? That's the challenge. And I've watched people in presentations like at user conferences trying to instruct people how to do all this stuff with Access or Excel. And it's, I would never have the patience. I mean, just because I'm a programmer, programmers invent ways to do things a lot easier. If I can tell a computer program how to do it and do it right, then it will just do it. And I don't have to worry about it. And I don't have to use a 10-key pad and stuff like that, because I just like those things. I use the numbers at the top there because that's what programmers use. Anyway, so I've got this data. Great. But that doesn't help me do something like this. So let's say I wanted a financial statement like this. I made a claim earlier, so let's just see if James can keep his promise. Here I'm using an OffCenter financials, and it's telling me right here on the information sheet what I need. I need financials, and I need a query designer or standard. So it answers your question. Can I run this with a standard license? You see right here it says standard. So yes, you could. Could you customize it? No, you'd need a designer. So most people are going to have a designer, because when I show you what it does, I mean, why wouldn't you? But anyway, so you have the admin sheet, and this explains how to use it. And it explains a lot more. I mean, I don't know. We take a lot of time to fill this stuff out. So please take some time to look at it, and then it will help you. We have a lot of content here, right in here, or on our YouTube channel, or in our knowledge base to help people. Like all the consultant training on financials is on our YouTube channel, broken into little pieces. You can watch it all for free. You don't have to pay anyone. And it's what a consultant would need to know to do whatever. So it's there if you want, or we can lead you through more live. But now I want to use this. So I have my designs. Look, see, there's a trial balance, but there's nothing in there yet, because this is a design, but I haven't applied it to anything. Okay, so this is the same right here as when I was, I closed it. But when I was in financials, I opened up a design and you saw some stuff. This is similar, except it's Excel. See, I can say over there, put some stuff about Marshall over there. I won't do that. But it's a design. Now, I can have a prefix group. So in financials, you can create a group, right, a reporting group, and you can give it a name and you can say what prefixes. We can do the same thing, but we don't have to do ranges. We can do all sorts of things. So you just put whatever prefixes you want. And if you have more prefixes, hit add column and you can add more. And then this group will have that name and that group. So when you're running the report, you just pick, like consolidate all prefixes or run it for a single prefix, like 10, or consolidate all of them based on the group. You have a lot of options, more than financials offers. I've got a cheat thing that will match. These settings will match the sample data. So I'm going to run it for this period 5. I could even put budgets in there. Like if there was a column that would show budgets, because the financial function can return budgets. It could return the year-to-date amount for whatever count through whatever date you say. It can do. It's magic. It's quite amazing. And this is just here. I've put one cutoff date, but I can have my dates be above my columns, right? If you know Office Connector and you know that I could have a column on a report that had a job number, and if I change it, all the data changes, or a cutoff date, which you can do. We demonstrate it lots of times. You can do the same thing and more with the financial function. So the financial function was used to create what you're about to see. So when I hit refresh, it applies the rules that this was created by, and I'll have a trial balance, a balance sheet, and a profit and loss, all 3 of them. So it's like a statement group. Automatically, you get a statement group. So it'll be there in a second. Marshall, any questions or anything you would like to add or clarify? I don't usually pause very often.
No, I think everything you've covered thus far has been great. I did get one individual say they were having issues hearing you, but I haven't noticed the same experience. But I will say that I really do appreciate how you went to take the time in General Ledger and explain all of the tables within there. I think that, for me, learning this software, that really helped, and I think that's helpful for the audience as well.
Thank you.
I did get someone from the audience indicate that you did cut out for them a bit ago, but you seems to be fine now.
Oh, okay. So it's funny, if you've ever seen me speak at a conference, because I've been doing this a long time, being quiet or not being able to hear me it's usually the exact opposite. I could be teaching in one room and you could be 2 floors up and several rooms over, and you probably hear me better than the person. So anyway, apologies. Technology sometimes doesn't do everything we want, but so we have the trial balance, we have a balance sheet, we have a P&L, but I have another report here. I have a transaction report. There's nothing in it because I haven't asked for it to do anything. So what financials does is it doesn't pull all the detail into Excel and then summarize it. A lot of Excel-based reporting does that, and it's slow, but that's what it does. It also opens the door to people criticizing. It's like, well, if you pull the data in Excel and it changes, or what if Excel's data gets wonky? How do you know it matches what's in our system? So we don't have that problem. When you look at this and you're going through there and going, what the heck is that right there? Then you can just double click and it will pass the parameters to another query and refresh it. And you can have any number of sub-reports, and we show that in Office Connector presentations all the time. So just don't forget that this is Office Connector. It just has in addition to like sum, and because I can't tell it to just sum up everything for a range of prefixes for an account for some period back, easily get what I want. It's harder to describe that. We could do a lot with Office Connector, but there's limitations. And it's also doing that is not necessarily the fastest way. We want the financial to be pretty fast. Now, you can also pull data in and do a pivot table. So this particular report, I get it. I can use it. I can share it. Somebody else can get in here with a standard license. If I had columns over here for comments, they could put that in there. You could insert another column for what if and a multiplier, and someone could do math over here. It's whatever it is that you kind of want. You could have insert a row and put another account in there. If you're gonna, now that's things like that are covered in training. This is when you click refresh, a lot's happening. So in order for that a lot that's happening to not happen to something you've done to customize it, you'd click customize and you'd follow the steps we cover in training, and you'd be able to customize it or build something from nothing. You could do that. I'm going to show you. So this is a result, but I don't have to go out and run another report. I just click it. So if I wanted to do a query based on something I see to get data from job cost, I could. Like let's say I looked at something, I go, well, things look, I don't understand something. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a query here and I've done this in other presentations, so I'm going to look at the job cost transaction table, and I say, I want to reconcile job cost and GL real quick. So I say I want to get a query of the debit accounts. I only want job cost transactions that have a debit account. Debit account is not equal to blank, and I come over here and I say I just want exclude duplicate rows, and I'll say it's from the GL transactions, but it's a debit, account summary, so I did that query real fast. I'm using a designer, but I'm in the financial generated with financials, and I'm doing query. If I'm doing it, you can do it, right? You can do this. I'm doing it right here, right in front of you. I could, I'm not going to do it right now, but I could add the name. I could, look that up. But if I wanted to say let's say for a range of dates, I'll put a range of dates like right here. I'll say 1/1/2020. And the reason I'm taking the time to do this is financial reporting. Sometimes I'll cover, just what it does and like, ta-da, I'm done. But in reality, what we do, like this time of the year, definitely, I go into more detail about digging into things, because there's a lot of financial reporting things that we do, even beyond just Office Manager financials, and I will touch upon some of them, but we'll touch upon more in the auditing and reconciliation one. You'll want that, because what happens if a number is not right? And then I will evangelize you, because I've been a consultant forever, to say, you should be doing this every month before you close the month, because you have tools to do these kinds of things really fast. But, I didn't do it every month. So right here, I want the amount from job cost. And over here, I want the GL, say, for that account, if there's a credit or a debit or whatever, whatever. I can't remember what order those things are in out there, so I'll go label it later in a second. But anyway, so that's what I want. So right here, I'm going to do a formula, right? I'm going to say I want to sum up the job cost transactions, and I want to sum up the amount, and I'm going to add a condition that not the cost codes, none of this stuff, it's the debit account equals not a literal value, but the value in C7. So $C7. Oops, come on, you. And I didn't do it on purpose to show you that, yes, you can edit it. You can. I just done all too many presentations in a row, maybe. Anyway, and then I add another condition, right, that the accounting date out there's an accounting date that it's greater than or equal to the value in C3. So $C, $3, whatever date's in there, it should be greater than or equal to. And the accounting date is less than or equal to, it's right there. See, it's C4. So, you should be able to know that you can do these things. If this is new to you, then you've been taking shortcuts and you haven't attended our other presentations. You should. So anyway, that's what I want. And so I hit finish, and it gets an amount, and I copy it down, right? If I change the date range, it'll change, right? If I put 4/30/2015, the amounts change. Okay, so we're good to go. Now over here, GL. This came from the job cost transaction summarized. This is a summary of the amounts, but this is a completely different table. Now I do need to know something about my Sage, but you should learn about your Sage. I mean, your database is yours. You should know it. But I want to sum it. Now, if I had pulled the data in GL into another sheet, I could use a SUMIF function. This sum function is the same as the SUMIF function, right? But not off the GL, it's off the job cost transactions. So look in the job cost transactions and debit credit, that's the order. All right. But C really comes before D. Okay. I'm a programmer, not an accountant. When I was learning this stuff, it was like, anyway, add a condition, and the account is equal to the value. I've already just did this in the other one, C7, and add a condition that the accounting date greater than equal to. It's just the same thing again. But this, this is financial reporting. It's just not the one I don't normally show it all in one presentation. I probably should. See, I try to get Sage to give me like 3-hour presentations. Sage has to rein me in. But anyway, so I've got that. See, so it's the same thing. And I do that, and then I'm going to copy it over. And then, if I can add these together and subtract this from this, and if the amounts are not equal, so then there'll be a non-zero amount and a delta, and then I could make it be red. So if I get a quick glance, I could then drill into the detail in job cost or GL and figure out why, or look at batches. You can just do it. You cannot just do whatever you think with like the legacy financials. You have to know what you're using and all that. So this is why people build it. Now I've shown you what the regular query does, right? And so now I'm going to show you some of the power behind how that report is possible. Oh, I did generate one other one. I know that some people want to generate a report and give it to somebody who doesn't have their Sage, and that they can drill into the detail, right? Okay, so that's the pivot table. So yes, I went ahead and finally did one. So see this one, it says pivot account history. That's one of the ones. You get all of these with financials. We really should charge more for this. Anyway, they won't. Right here, I've generated it. So see here, it's going to look the same. You put in these parameters, but when you hit refresh this time, what it's doing is a pivot table. The way it works is you pull all the detail in, and then you summarize it. So it gives me a chance, like it's showing me the data, but it tells me up here I could actually customize the rows and columns. And I'm not going to go into that. You can see it and do it yourself. But the point is, if I want to see what makes that up, like I've sent this Excel workbook to somebody, right? And maybe I did a save as values up here. And you could try it. Save this workbook, generate it, save the workbook, then click here, save as values right there. Click it, and then go into the one that says save as values, and then do this, and you should be able to get into the detail. There you go, boom. Why can I do that? Because it's in the workbook. That's what a pivot table does. Pivot tables take longer. I made Marshall suffer through refreshing one, so he had to learn his lesson, didn't you, Marshall?
Yeah, so James, just to kind of summarize, the first example you gave us, when you double-clicked that, it went out and re-queried the information, whereas the pivot table example, when we initially generate that workbook, it pulls in all of the detail, which then allows us to, as of that time, and then will allow us to drill into that, even if we're not connected to our Sage data. The disadvantage, as you just mentioned, is we're only dealing with the information as of the date at which we generated the pivot table.
All of that is 100% correct. Perfect summary. But let's just point something out, shall we? I've had people want that. And if you've ever encountered me, like, I know a lot, and you can come up to me at a conference and ask, but you can expect, like, I've been doing this for a long time, and I expect people to be wise and use technology to their advantage. So I would say there are people who are against using Excel. Like I was one of them once upon a time. I'm a programmer. But so if you pull all the detail into an Excel document, then it's current as of that point. So you better put some stuff around that says data current as of blah, blah, blah. Now, if somebody went back in there and edited things, like they adjusted historical periods, you can do that if you know how. Or they did a closing entries or whatever, something else has been done. That would not be in that pivot table unless you hit refresh again. But it would be in the financial that has drill down capability. So you could also give someone access to certain workbooks that you've staged for them. They can't do anything you don't want them to, but they could hit refresh and get into the detail, and it's live. And today's technology, that could be done. I mean, IT people do that sort of thing all the time. So anyway, just planting a seed that you can overcome all the objections that people have to Excel with technology like this, including something I didn't even think about. When we first came out with this technology, I had implemented a property management company, and that guy was tight, and it was hard. Anyway, I did a lot of reports for him, things that he told me. I did what he told me, and I didn't really think about it. I did it right, but and then when this came out, he bought a bunch of licenses, and then he bought more. And so I took the order, but I said, could you tell me, why are you buying so much of this? Because I know you don't just throw money around. He goes, you don't understand what you guys created. You created the capacity for me to create what I want and then provide visibility, but also provide confidence in the number, because I can do this report and I could do the same report another way and I can see the numbers balance, and now I can be more confident. And he says, in most systems that we use, when we run a report, it's Crystal or whatever, I don't know that number is right. I can't just satisfy myself by getting into the data directly. But with this, I can easily. And, so I'm passing that information on. So anyway, so here I'm in an empty spreadsheet, right? It's got numbers typed in. It's just text. There's no activity, no balance. I can't refresh this. Nothing's going to happen unless I do something. Now, I can make this prefix, year, and period be over this column and have a different one over here and a different one over here. And I can add all three of them together. So I could do one, have 3 months and add them up to be a quarter, change the periods, have it be a different quarter. And it's all just doing the formula once and then just copying and pasting. If you think about it, it's pretty amazing. And then these are all the things that you could pull, like balance as of a certain point in time, this point in time right here, or whatever's over each column or whatever, the period as of that point, the year-to-date activity through that point, all of this stuff. I talk to someone and I sometimes go back and think, man, what am I doing wrong? Because I show this and then the person was playing and says, I'm trying to get the activity through this point in time. Is there a way to do it? And I'm like, it is right there. And I'm going to make sure I really point that out. So I have done that. So I'll be listening for anybody here on this call. I'll be watching you guys. No, anyway, there it's there. But you don't have to. It's not. I put it there for ease of use. When I go to add-ins and I click this function selector, I see all the Office Connector functions. Now I may not be able to use the TS import function for one thing or another unless I own that feature, right? But the function's there and all the syntax. It's all right here. This is the power behind this. So this function is what drives those other things you saw. Yeah, they're pretty reports and they can have graphs and charts and stuff, but this is what drives those functions because it can derive an amount, an accurate amount for pretty much anything you can dream up. You can even consolidate prefixes that are not in the current period, the same period. You can't do that with financials. They have to all be in the same period. And prefixes have different year endings. This can still resolve that. It's amazing. And so when you insert it, it's going to prompt you, what's the prefix for that function? What's the base? What's all these things? But if I copy this over or down, it can get values out of here or different values from the column heading. So I can have some set of prefixes here, copy them over and change, and you can evolve a report. Do it. If you're playing around with it, just do what I just described. Sit down and think, okay, what did he say? How did he do this example? And then let me see if I can just copy it over and change it, and you're going to be successful. Okay, so there are helper functions. Like if you wanted to add up a range of base accounts, let's say I had a from and a through right here, and I wanted to add up a range, then the base account argument for this would not come just from that base account. It would come from this base range function, probably in another cell that you have. So there's helper functions, and all of this is covered in financial training, okay? So, but I'm just going to insert this, and now it's prompting me, right? And this is Excel's prompting, Excel's function argument. It just wouldn't be there if you didn't install Office Center Financials. So you say, what prefixes do you want? Now, this is a wild card of prefixes, but I could have a range. That's how those other, remember the other sheet, I could put a name and then put a whole bunch of different prefixes and cells, and I could pass that or say prefix 100, blah, 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 through another, like a range. It can do all of that, but here it is. It's just whatever's up there. And then the base account is here. It's in B19. My cursor is in D19. So the base account for this row is in B19. See, it's all visual. All of Office Center is very visual. So $ B19, the fiscal year, I could type it in. I could just type in 2015. But I'm going to put it, get it from there, because I could then change it. And then the period is coming from right there, and then the amount. So this is activity. Which one of these is activity? Period activity. That will be the activity for whatever period you tell it. So type in there. Now, if you type in Marshall, will it return period activity? No, because Marshall, he's an amount, but he's it's not one of those amounts right there. Okay, so you have to type in period activity. Don't spell it in some other language, Swahili or whatever. It needs those letters right there. So you hit OK, and now that's it. It goes, oh, it doesn't look like it. Now I have to make sure I'm in the property management data folder. I am good. So now I'm going to copy this formula down, because for this account, that prefix, 100,001 or 001 40,000, that doesn't have any activity for that period. But if I copy it down, where's my magic? What did I do wrong? It should have worked. Here I'm. So period activity, period, year, B19, that's all correct. Prefix is all correct. Probably not period 5. Yeah. Well, I thought that did work too. All right, Marshall. Here I am talking and doing it. Well, you know what? In real life, that could happen to somebody. They do it. The formula didn't give them what they wanted. They're kind of like, what? And they email support or whatever. But what I'd say is just, try it again, because like if up here, it's telling me right up here. That's how you got it. August is correct, right? So if I say period 8 and it's that range, it should work. So let me just try to do this formula again. Maybe I did something wrong and not seeing. All right, so I'm going to insert. I'm just going to do it. Prefix is coming from right there. The base account is coming from $B19 for this row. The fiscal year is coming from that cell right there, has a name. The period is coming from this cell right here, that has a name. The amount type, maybe I misspelled period activity after saying, probably I did. And so you could have a drop-down list of those. I had somebody, like I did it once, I put a drop-down list using validation, and then you picked it and it was always correct. You just typed it in once and then you don't make these mistakes. But let's try that and copy it down. Okay, yeah, probably I misspelled.
I think you misspelled activity.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm rushing. So now I copied it over, okay? But I'm human and I'm still able to make this work. Why? I kept trying because I know there's data in there. And I also know that this works. There's a lot of people who use it. So if it doesn't give me what I want, most likely I've done something wrong. Or a lot of times people are trying to do too much. Everybody wants to do, like the first building, let's say you're just starting out in the construction industry, and the first project that you're going to do as a project manager is like one of the most complicated things you could think of. And it's like, oh yeah, well, we need to do that. You're going to get demoralized and quit. There's a process to get where you're going. So keep it simple and get confident with the tool, and then apply that to what you want to do. But I could copy these formulas over and then just have these reference a different cell, right? I mean, I could probably do it just by, like if I do this, and copy these things over here. Oops. I'm telling you, I'm making every mistake I could make. Okay, Control V. Now these are referencing another thing. So let's say I don't want it to reference. I want the prefix range to come from here. So this is going to be 100 dash, percent, just like that one is. Let's say. I'll just do it just so you guys can believe me. And then here I want the year to be 2015, but I want this to be month 7. Okay, different. That's 8, 7, 6, whatever you want to do, or probably the opposite way, right? Numbers go up. Whatever you decide, it will work your way. Well, this isn't pointing up there, right? This is pointing to the cell. That cell has a defined name, like someone named it prefix up here. So I'm going to say, don't get the value out of that cell. Get the value out of, what do I put in here? See where the prefix is in F15. So now I'm going to say $15 because I'm not going to do this again, right? And then that's still correct. The year doesn't come from up there. I want to get it the year out of the column heading. Like I'll tell people they can do it and then they don't do it. It's like, do it. I told you to do it. So $16. Oops, didn't do everything, did I? and then the period is not from that up there. Like if you left it like that, it didn't work. It's not the function not working. It would be you doing something wrong here. All right, what am I doing? Okay, here. Excel's. I know I'm probably coming in close to a limit of when I have to have this thing wrapped up, but I just want to complete this if I can real quick. This thing right here should be, it's not letting me edit. My Excel is off in La La Land doing whatever, but I want to change that right there, and my Excel's not letting me do it.
You can click the F of X to the left of the equation bar, and that should get you into
I think
the
Excel is
argument.
off doing something. I just have had too many things without like resetting my environment.
We do have just a couple minutes until the top of the
but
hour.
Point is, the point, let me just complete this thought. The point is that if I change those and then I copy this and I copy it down, I'm going to have it now referencing that. So you should just be able to come up here and edit that, but I've done something that's locked that or whatever, and someone on the line probably knows exactly what I've done. That's great. But you see how you can use the function. So coming back to this, the slides that we have, I just want to say we did the quick tour of building something. There's several concepts that the system can do, like rolling forward and rolling back, and it's these parameters, as I demonstrated, that are making the function produce a different result. So if you're going to build something from nothing, then you can see how you can control like the prefixes or the year or whatever. Like there's all sorts of different ways to use that function and the parameters in that function. Here's something that talks about the different amounts. And if you left it blank, it would be balanced, but you could get all these other things. And these are the parameters, the slide that talks about this. We'll be able to pass this off to you guys. These reports come with the software. You can use them out of the box as a starting point or customize them. And there's examples of each one in this presentation. So you'll have that.